Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial, and hold on a second, this looks bad. Oh, that's better. If only getting smooth footage was that easy. Now, while it may not be that easy to get smooth footage, it's actually not that hard, and today, I'm going to show you everything that you need to know in order to get smooth cinematic B-roll footage. And I brought her along too to be my model.
What's up? Hi.
Now, if you're anything like me, then you love to take your footage and dump it into the editor and skim through it to see exactly what you got, only to realize that you screwed up. All your shots are shaky and none of them actually are usable beyond just a few seconds. But don't worry, because I'm going to teach you a few things that you can use so that this will never happen to you again. Before we begin, there's two really important things to talk about. And the first one is focal length. The more zoomed in you are, the deeper your focal length is, the more shaky your footage is going to get. Now, here's a shot at 24 mils, and here's a shot at 60 mils. Note that the 60 mil shot is significantly more shaky than the 24 mil. The more zoomed in we are, the more shaky we are. So keep that in mind when we're talking about shaky footage. If you're concerned about getting a really clean shot, then consider using a shorter focal length. That's number one. And the second thing is motion. It's a lot easier to see if your shot is shaky if it's a static image. But if you add a bit of motion, bit of panning, bit of tilting, up and down, whatever it is, it's gonna hide those blemishes a lot easier than if you just have a static shot. Motion is gonna cover up a lot of blemishes. And the very first thing you should do in order to get smoother footage is turn on any in-body stabilization in either the body or the lens. This is the camera trying to correct any micro jitters that you might have in your camera operation. It's really as easy as flipping it on and the camera does the rest. It's almost exactly like what you saw in the beginning with the shake of the camera and it fixes it. In fact, that's exactly what I did. The first shot, I just turned my in-body stabilization off, and the second shot, I turn it back on. It's really that simple, and it can get your shots to look a lot smoother without really doing anything. The camera and the lens do all the hard work. It's really good if you have in-body stabilization and a stabilization in your lens. That gives you two stabilization features. If you only have one, don't worry about it, it works, but that's a really good place to start off with, and it's kind of an always-on thing for me. Just in case I screw up, the camera's got me and will correct those micro jitters. Now, most editors do have the ability to have some sort of in-post stabilization. Premiere and DaVinci all have it. All of the major editors have some sort of stabilization that you can put on your footage after the fact if you realize I did a really terrible job on set. Be warned though, it will crop in your footage a little bit. So if you like the framing of the shot, be prepared to have it pinch in a little bit as it's trying to compensate for the shakiness of the shot. But I'm assuming that if your shot was shaky, you probably didn't get the framing you right, so it really doesn't matter. Okay, so we talked about software solutions on how to get a smoother shot. Now let's talk about some hardware solutions, starting with the tripod. I'm so glad I got that. Now we're talking about stable shots. The tripod is the king. There's no comparison. You just have to lock it off, set and forget, and it is rock solid. It is never gonna move. Tripods also don't have to just be locked off. You can use it to get excellent pans and tilts. Fancier tripods have a friction so that you're able to turn it up or down to get a much smoother pan or tilt. But if you don't have it built in your tripod, don't worry, just don't loosen it all the way. And if you do that, it'll have a bit of friction to it so that you too can also get really good pans and tilts with your cheaper tripod. I saw a squirrel and I thought it was weird.
You saw a squirrel?
Yeah, it came up here. Now, another great tool you can use besides the tripod is the monopod. You can't exactly lock it off because it's going to fall over, but it's a really good tool to get pans, swoops, and those really cool dramatic shots. Now, I don't have a monopod, so the poor man's monopod is just extending one leg on the tripod, and you kind of have both in one. It does the exact same thing, except you still need to obviously be manning it. Now, another thing you can use is either Steadicam or a gimbal. A Steadicam is a passive tool that uses weights to counterbalance your camera to give you a nice steady shot. And a gimbal is motorized, and it will make sure your camera is always steady and level. These are going to give you really nice cinematic shots. but they're very heavy and expensive and sometimes a little cumbersome to carry around. For that reason, I don't have anything to show you, but no, that is something if you are looking into getting really nice cinematic shots, you should definitely invest in something like that. Now, the last thing you can use in order to get cleaner camera shots is actually already in your camera bag. It's your camera strap. If you tie it to your camera and you hold it tight against your neck while you use pans and tilts, you're actually going to get some really nice clean shots because it's going to add that extra point of contact on your camera. So this thing, don't just throw it away. It's actually pretty useful. Okay, so we talked about how software can be used to get smoother footage. We talked about how hardware, like tripods and monopods, can use to get smoother footage. Now let's talk about you, because you're probably not holding the camera properly, and you're probably not walking with it correctly. You should always have two hands on your camera as close to your chest as possible. The further out we have the camera, the more jittery it's gonna be. The closer we tuck it in, the more smooth that shot's gonna be. I know you can't always get it that way. Sometimes you have to put a bit of an arm's reach out, but as much as possible, try to tuck that into your chest. That's gonna give you a much cleaner shot. Finally, you're probably not walking right with your camera. Our head naturally bobs up and down as we walk. Now, our eyes don't really catch it because they sort of filter it out and it doesn't really matter, but your camera definitely will catch it. So you have to walk in a specific way so your head and body don't bob up and down. And the best way that I was taught about this was imagine you're in a basement, and imagine the roof of the basement is right at your hair. So if you move a millimeter up or down, you're gonna hit your head on the roof of the basement. So when you walk, hold your camera close to your body, bend your knees to absorb most of the impact, and think about your head. Think about the top of your head and keep it as level as possible while moving and walking with the camera. It's gonna look a little funky and you're gonna look a little weird to the people around you, but I promise you it's gonna get really nice, clean, smooth shots. Now, the other thing you can do is called the PM rock and roll. Hold your camera and kind of lean forward or back, almost to the point where you're falling over. And at the last second, you wanna catch yourself. There's gonna be a bit of a jolt at the end, but don't worry about that, because if you did it in slow motion, you're kind of guaranteed to get 2 seconds of really nice dolly in or dolly zoom out because you kind of went free fall when you're doing it. Again, it looks kind of silly when you do it, but I promise you it's gonna result in some really good shots. Okay, and that's everything that you need to know in order to get silky, buttery smooth cinematic footage. But remember, you can only learn so much from a YouTube video. You have to go out and do these shots on your own. And don't worry if you don't get them right the first time. It always takes me a minimum of like 3 or 4, 5, 6 shots to get them right. And even when I got it right, I always want to shoot a safety just in case I didn't actually get what I thought I did in the shot. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like this video. Take it easy, bud. You want to say something?
Quack.
In fact, it's pretty easy when you think about it. No, I don't like that. I messed up with mine.
I'm gonna be the star of this show.
Oh no. I'm going to show you everything that you need to know in order to get smooth cinematic B-roll footage. You want to say anything?
No.
There you go. Speechless. I'm just that good.